Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. Strange things do happen in this world. Just imagine exporting, or do we say importing, a hyena from Zim. She was saying that she uses a hyena when she travels back home to Zim for their night witch meetings that they have each and every week. Strange things do happen in this world. The message reads like this: Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I want to give you my sister's confession as well as my own confession. And what happened was that when I got married, when I went to stay with my husband, I was staying at his family's compound, and the mother did not like me at all. Me and my husband, we used to love each other, but the problem came when he started to make a little bit of money, and that was when he started abusing me. He used to beat me up. So in that same village, there was this other woman who was also in the same situation that I was. So we became friends because we kept on telling ourselves that we need to stay strong and to pray, because our husbands, with time, they were going to change. Whenever my husband was drunk, he would return back home and he would beat me up so much. And even my mother-in-law, she did not like me at all. So I then told my sister that this was what I was going through. My sister used to tell me that if you just come to my place in the village where she was married, then everything is going to change. I am going to make sure that your husband is going to love you and your husband is never going to cheat on you ever again. So there was a time after I had seen that the abuse was just too much, and still I loved my husband. I then went and I spoke with my sister. When I went to see my sister, on that same evening that I went to her village, she then said, let us go to this other place. And it was in the evening when we went to visit this other woman, whom she said was like her best friend, her own sister from another mother. But when we arrived at that woman's compound, I was surprised because this was like an old lady. So with my sister's age, with the friends that she said that these were like her best friends, her real sisters, it was really surprising to me. But with the things that we had seen, I had actually seen that my sister was a witch. Along the way, my sister had been acting in a very funny way. But whilst we were with that woman, she then gave my sister, those mushrooms. She gave my sister some dried mushrooms, and she told my sister that she was supposed to make these mushrooms into sort of like a powder, and this was what I was supposed to give to my husband as a love potion, so that when my husband will be looking at me, he will be scared of me and he would love me with all of his heart, and I was going to be the one who was going to be in control. So when we were walking back, that was when my sister said that we had to pass through this other place. And when we passed through that place, the people who used to stay at that house, I think they all died. Then we went into that compound, and then when my sister was busy doing whatever that she was doing at that place, that was when I saw that there were actually spirits that were all over the compound. So since this was the first time to ever see a ghost, I actually thought that these were like living beings that I was looking at. I then greeted those spirits thinking that they were living beings. Then my sister got so angry at me, and she said, who told you to greet these spirits? Don't you know that these are ghosts, the spirits of the people that used to live at this compound? Then I saw that those people, those spirits that I thought were real humans, they started to walk towards the place where me and my sister were. Then my sister, when she saw that the spirits, they were now getting ready to attack me and her, she then said, run. And then we started running. Then we went back to her compound. When we arrived at her compound, she then mixed some herbs, and she said that I was supposed to go and bath with those herbs that she had mixed. And she said that we were not supposed to talk about everything that I had seen, the spirits that I had seen, and we were going to talk about it the next next morning. So I went outside. Even when I was bathing, I was feeling this other presence, that there were some beings that were looking at me. After I had finished bathing, then I heard that there were actually some spirits that came to the place where I had been bathing. Then those spirits started to eat up the mud as well as drinking the water. And I ran back into the kitchen where my sister was. And then my sister told her husband, she actually commanded her husband to go and sleep. And when she told me that on that night she was going to sleep with me, I asked her what was her husband going to say. She then said, oh, as for him, I have already finished with your brother-in-law. Anything that I want him to do, he'll end up doing it, because I am in control of this marriage. I control everything that he does. So yes, my sister then sent her husband to go and sleep. Then when we were alone in her kitchen, and then my sister started to tell me everything that had happened. My sister told me that she was a witch, and already because of the herbs that she had made me to drink with everything that I had seen, I had already discovered that my sister was a witch. So I was not scared at that time, because the spirit of witchcraft, it had already started possessing me. My sister told me how she had joined witchcraft and how she had actually sacrificed one woman who was also a witch in that same village. Everything that had happened, my sister told me. My sister then told me that indeed she was going to take those dried mushrooms, and then she was going to turn the mushrooms into powder, and I was supposed to cook for my husband. But if I wanted total control, if I wanted total control over my husband, as well as having total control over my husband's family, including my husband's parents, she was willing to offer me some powers. But in order for me to get these powers, all that I had to do was to accept. I had to accept the spirit of witchcraft, so that it can come and possess me, so that I can become a witch like her. With the way that I was being abused by my own husband, I then saw that this was the only way out. I just wanted to be with my husband, but at the same time, the way that he was treating me, it was really painful. That was when I agreed to become a witch. So when I was fast asleep, like my sister had told me, she had told me that she was going to take me to a place where I was going to meet up with her other sisters, the sisterhood of witches. I then woke up and I found out that I was at a place where they were having their meeting. So there were witches that were sitting on my right side, and there were witches that were sitting on my left side, including my own sister, and I was in the middle. And then I saw that in front of me there was this other witch that was sitting on a golden chair. She was an old witch. She looked at me and she looked at my sister. Then my sister spoke on my behalf, and my sister said that I was willing to become a witch. Then that old lady, the queen of witches, asked my sister, what was I going to give to her if I was going to be accepted into this sisterhood of witches? Then my sister said, this young girl that you see right here, if you accept her into the sisterhood of witches, she is going to give you back the meat that you are going to give her, the meat of a human being that we have sacrificed. She is going to give that flesh of that human being back to you. So please accept her into this sisterhood of witches. That was when I was accepted into that sisterhood of witches. So I was then given some human flesh of another woman whom they had sacrificed, and I was told that I had to eat this human meat. So I ate the human meat and it tasted really wonderful. But the next morning, my sister told me that she wanted to give me some herbs so that my stomach will be able to digest this human meat that I had ate, because she said it is really poisonous. So she started to give me some herbs that would make my stomach to be able to digest human meat and not to make me sick. So after this whole thing had happened, I then told my sister about my friend who was also suffering at the hands of her husband, because when I told her that I was going to be given some charms by my sister, she begged me and she said, oh dear friend, when you go to see your sister, please remember me, remember the way that I am suffering. So my sister said it is fine. She then gave me a love potion that I was supposed to give to my friend. When I returned back, I then gave my friend the love potion and the instructions that I had been given by my sister, but I don't know what actually happened because she was caught in the act. I suspect that her mother-in-law was a very prayerful woman, because when she was busy cooking for everyone, the time that she took out the charms from her pockets, when she was busy sprinkling the charms in the pots, in the food that she was preparing for the rest of the family, that was when she was caught by her mother-in-law, and then she was taken to the village chief. But I am so thankful to that woman, because even though her marriage came to an end, and the chief asked her where she had gotten all of these love potions, then she did not reveal the place, the person who had given her these charms. She kept on lying and telling the chief places where she had never gone to, saying that this is where I went to get these charms that I wanted to give to my mother-in-law, my husband, and the rest of his relatives. So then the husband said, unfortunately, he could not stay with her anymore. And when I was left all alone, I started to use those charms on my husband as well as his relatives. And even right now, I am the one who is in control of the rest of my husband's relatives. Anything that I tell them to do, that is what they'll end up doing. Even when we are at family meetings, if I say, no, this is not what I want to happen, then the rest of my husband's relatives, they will just agree with me. So since I was now using these love potions and witchcraft on my husband, the way that he started behaving, he was acting as if he was like a zombie. Anyway that I go to, my husband will be by my side. If I tell him to go at least and watch some soccer with other men, he would refuse. He would want to go with me to my women's meeting. So I was scared that people in the village, they were going to notice that this man, why is he all of a sudden acting as if he's like a zombie? So I then convinced my husband, and we moved out of his family's compound, and we then went and we built our own home somewhere far. It is about a 30-minute walk in the village, because I did not want people to notice that this is what my husband is doing. He's more like a zombie. My husband is scared of me, and he will never say anything to me, even if he can see that the things that I have done, they are really wrong. So by the end of the day, that was when we found a job here in South Africa, and we came here to South Africa. When I came here to South Africa, my sister, he had already given me a hyena, the hyena that I use. Since I was staying in my husband's village, I had to travel back to the sisterhood club where I joined, where I am a witch. So I had to be given a mod of, so I had to be given this hyena so that I will be able to go and attend those meetings. When I came here to South Africa, I spoke with my sister about this issue, and I said, what am I going to do? Because if you requested that I should come for a weekly meeting, then what am I supposed to do? My sister said I should not worry, because in South Africa, when I was in South Africa, then the hyena was going to follow me. Indeed, this hyena followed me to South Africa, into the location where I am staying. So this hyena, during the day, it is like a brown cat. People in the location, they know this cat, but they do not know that this cat is not a natural cat. They just think that maybe it is one of those cats that just go around, moves around the houses in the location looking for rats and other small insects. But as a matter of fact, this brown cat, it belongs to me. It is my own hyena. So at night, this cat, it will transform itself. It is the one that comes, then it will tell me that we have to go back to Zim. And this cat, and this hyena of mine, it is very fast. It is faster even than a private jet. Within a couple of minutes, I would have traveled from South Africa, returning back to Zim. So what it does is that we have this other bird that we call our monitoring spirit. So this bird, it is the one that reports everything to me, and it reports everything to me through this hyena of mine. They can communicate. So me and this hyena, the way that we communicate, communicate. It is like I am connected to this hyena. When we look at each other directly into our eyes, then I can feel everything that it will be feeling. If it is hungry, if it is sad, if it wants to tell me everything, then we just look at each other directly into our eyes. So the way that it transports me back to Zim, it swallows me, then it will start to run. And when it is running, this hyena, it is very fast. And within a couple of minutes, I would have traveled from South Africa, returning back to Zim. Then there came a time when I was told that it was time for me to return back the meat. You remember that meat that was given to me on the night when I was initiated into this sisterhood of witches. And I was told that I had to return back this human meat that I had ate. So I was told that I had to sacrifice any person. And the way that you can be sacrificed by a witch, let's say if you and I have an disagreement and then you insult me, and if you have done anything wrong or bad against me, then I will keep it in my heart, so that later on in life, if I need to sacrifice you, then I will come to you and I will tell your spirit that now it is the time for you to repay for all the things that you did against me. If you are innocent, then I cannot sacrifice you. You will need to know that for a witch to bewitch you, then you should have done something wrong against that witch. If you are innocent, then those charms, they are not going to work on you. So at the place where me and my husband were staying, there was this other woman. This woman, she thought that she was actually the landlord's daughter. She also came from Zim. When I started staying there, she used to gossip about me, saying that I am smelly and things like that. So there were people that had told me that this is what she was saying, and I had hated her for that. So by the time that I was told that a sacrifice was needed, and I then told the queen if it was possible for me to sacrifice this woman that had gone around gossiping about me, saying that I am not attractive and I am smelly and my husband is way too poor, the queen gave me the go ahead. So we waited for this woman to fall pregnant. When this woman was pregnant, I want people to know that when a woman is pregnant, that is the time when she is easily to be. When a woman is pregnant, that is the time when it is very dangerous for her, because a witch can actually bewitch her quite easily, because she will be carrying another living being inside her. So her soul, her spirit will be supporting another spirit. So this will make her spirit to be very weak, so much that she won't be able to defend herself from any kind of witchcraft or attack. And when she was pregnant, and I then saw that this was the perfect opportunity that we had to kill off this woman. So I waited for this woman until this woman had gone into labor. When this woman had gone into labor on that day, I was busy at work at this other Indian couple's house where I work as a maid, and I was actually informed by my hyena as well as my sisters. They actually traveled from Zim. So when we are traveling during the day, we cannot use our hyenas. What we do is that we use strong winds. And if you have ever noticed that out of nowhere, you can actually feel a strong wind maybe passing by through your house, or a whirlwind. This is what we use during the day, for we cannot use these creatures of the night to travel during the day. So on that day, when my sisters and the other witches that were traveling from Zim came to help me to sacrifice this woman, they were using this other strong wind, such that the people that I was working for, they actually were surprised, because this wind that passed through their house, it actually made one tree to fall down. So when this wind passed through their house, I immediately knew that these were my sisters calling out for me. So I then went outside and I pretended as if I just wanted to do some other work outside, and I went at the back of their house, and my sisters' spirits were waiting for me, and I spoke with my sisters whilst I was in the physical realm and they were in the spiritual realm, and I told them and I directed them at the hospital where this woman was. at, and they went and they waited for me. So the reason as to why they had gone, it was because I was unable to join up with them. I had to wait until I had knocked off. So my sisters, they went to that hospital and they were just causing disunity in that hospital. They had brought a spirit of hatred and disunity in that hospital because this woman, she was supposed to die at the hands of a South African nurse so that it can look like it was just a natural thing that had happened. So they were sowing the seed of hatred into the nurses that were on duty on that day when this woman was admitted into the maternity ward. So later on, after I had knocked off, I quickly rushed off back home and I prepared a meal for my husband. And on that day, I made my husband to fall asleep just after the sun had gone down. That is when the spirit of witchcraft is able to possess my body 100%. So what I did is that after I had finished preparing a meal for my husband and after he had bathed, I then sent him to go and sleep. And as he was sleeping on the bed, I lay beside him and I waited for him to fall asleep. After he had fallen asleep, I then woke up and I took, those African cooking sticks, the ones that we use for cooking soft porridge, and I then place it right beside him. This is what I always do so that my husband cannot notice that I am not with him in the same room. Even if when he wants to touch me, he will be touching that African cooking stick, thinking that he is touching his own wife, but I will be long gone. And at this place, at any place where I will be staying, if I have gone out doing my witchcraft business, then there is no thief that will be able to go into that yard, and there will be no policeman, anyone that will be able to get into that yard, because I do not want people to notice that I won't be in my room with my husband. People will only be able to wake up when I have arrived back the next morning. The night that I go out to do my witchcraft business, everyone in that yard will be fast asleep like they are dead people. So after everything had been prepared, I then called that hyena. The hyena came, and it was the one that took me to this hospital. When we were at the hospital, we tried by all means to sow the seeds of hatred into the South African nurses that were on duty on that day. But the only problem that we were facing was that there was this other doctor. So this doctor, my sisters had told me that the reason as to why they were unable to sow the seeds of hatred, it was because of a fire that was burning on her forehead. Like those people that pray, there is always a small fire that keeps on burning on their forehead. But the only chance that we had with this woman was that since she was a married woman, but she had a relationship with this other man whom she went with to the same university, so she kept on having that relationship with that man, cheating on her own husband. When we noticed that this is what was happening in her life, that is how we were able to defeat that is how we were able to defeat that little flame that was burning on her forehead. So the next time when we walked into her office, that was when the fire died down, because before we had known the type of a sin that she was committing, each and every time that we were trying to attack her, then her office will be full of burning flames and we would run out of that maternity ward. But this time around, when we noticed that this is what was happening, we then defeated her. The way that we defeated her, we then sent some of our creatures and they located her house where her husband was with their child, and our creatures made her child to get so sick, so much that she had to rush back home because her child was really sick. The moment that she left the hospital premises, we celebrated so much because we knew that it was now time to harvest. It was time for us to sacrifice this woman. It was time for the killing. The hunt had begun. So we then went into the nurses' bodies and we possessed their bodies, the ones that were on duty, and it was quite easy for us to possess them. They did not put out a fight. Their spirits did not even put out a fight because they were too weak and they were full of, and their lives were full And since they were sinful people, it was easy for us to possess and to defeat their spirits. So after we had possessed them, when it came time for that woman to give birth, we had already sowed the seed of hatred into their hearts, and we made them to ignore this woman. So her baby kept on pushing and pushing, and her baby grew tired, and her baby died whilst she was trying to give birth to that child. This woman got so weak, and when that child of hers grew tired of pushing, we actually celebrated. Yes, I know that it sounds as if it is something that is evil, but when the spirit of witchcraft have possessed you, you do not feel any mercy at all. We actually celebrated when we felt that the child's heartbeat, it was growing faint and faint each and every time when he tried to push. And finally the baby died, and that woman, she collapsed and she passed away. And the way that she passed away was when I went to the bed where she was sleeping on, and then I looked at her, and her spirit saw me, and I said, "You remember me?" And yes, indeed she remembered me. And I said, "You remember everything that you went around the location telling people that I was smelly this and that? Well, it is time for you to pay back." And then I suffocated her until she passed away. When this woman had died, that was when my sisters came. So when a person is about to die, what they usually do is that they just do a very small poo, and that is the poo that we use to locate the grave of that person that we would have sacrificed. My sisters came and they took that small poo and they placed it somewhere, and the wind took them back to Zim. We waited for this woman to be transported back to Zim, and we used her poo, the one that she had done when she was about to die. Then we located her grave and we called out her name, and her body appeared on top of her grave. Then we started to slaughter her, and piece by piece we ate her meat. That is how I paid back the queen, our queen. Dear listeners, right there was a translation of a message that I received. Strange things do happen in this world. This woman was saying that there are many times whereby she actually gets off from a taxi, because in that taxi there will be a Christian, and on her forehead or on his forehead there will be a burning flame, such that the whole taxi, it will be full of a burning fire. Strange things do happen in this world.